I want to tap the mic, but all right. Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome. It's so good to see you. For those of you that I haven't met, I am Annabella, the Assistant Director for Engagement for the Cancer Moonshot. My wonderful colleague in the back of the room, Jackson, and I are behind several of the communications that you all have received, so it's fantastic to see all of you in person, and we are so grateful for everyone who is joining us on the live stream. Welcome. We have a completely packed agenda, so I'm going to jump right in. It is my pleasure to welcome Dr. Arthi Prabhakar, Director of the White House Office for Science and Technology Policy and Assistant to the President for Science and Technology.
Thank you, Annabella. Thanks for putting this amazing event together. I was coming down the hall and I heard the roar of conversation and the energy in this room long before I saw the people who are assembled here. And I think that's a very good sign for the work that's ahead, which is substantial. We are all here in this room together because we have something really important that we have to get done, and that is to end cancer as we know it. And I think everyone here and on the live stream knows how important this is to President Biden and to First Lady Dr. Biden. And you also know that when the president reignited the Cancer Moonshot a year ago, he set two really important, very ambitious goals for the Cancer Moonshot. One's a quantitative goal, and that is to cut the age-adjusted cancer death rate in half over the next 25 years. That's about twice the rate of progress that we've been making. It's a hugely ambitious goal. And coupled to that is the second part of the goals, which is a qualitative goal, and that is to change the experience of patients and their families and caregivers as they go through this journey. Both of those things have to happen. Both of those things can happen, but neither of those things is going to happen without communities like this one coming together to do this work, because these are very hard, very, very, very aggressive goals. Now, this group knows a lot more about these particular cancers, brain cancers, than I do, for sure. But as you all know very well, nearly 19,000 Americans are expected to die from a brain tumor this year. And it's one of our hardest challenges in cancer. There's only a 36% survival rate for patients with malignant tumors. And that just really, to me, underscores the seriousness of this enterprise. This is a particularly vexing area, and it's one in which we have particularly struggled to make progress. But when I think about the people and the organizations who are represented in this room, and I think about the quality of the ideas, the brain power that has come together to focus on these issues, from many, many different vantage points, from understanding the disease through personal experience, from a scientific perspective, from the perspective of those who practice medicine. We know that those are the ingredients. That's what it's going to take to be able to do this. And our role here at the White House, with Danielle Carnival's leadership of the Cancer Moonshot, our role is to mobilize all of these smart ideas, all of this energy, and to connect the components so that we can actually make meaningful progress. So what does that look like if we're going to succeed? And this is what keeps me going all the time. We are building a future in which there are millions of people who never have to hear that they have a cancer diagnosis, and millions of others who, even though they get that bad news, they continue to survive and to thrive and to live full lives. And that's what makes this very hard journey completely worthwhile. So I want to, Gesundheit, and I want to thank everyone who joined us here today at the White House to push this work forward, and I'm really looking forward to see what you come up with. So thanks for having me, and I'll turn it back over to Annabella.
Thank you so much, Dr. Prabhakar. All right, it is my pleasure to introduce our first panel. If they could join me on stage, I'd like to welcome Adam Hayden, April Freeman, and Lisa Ward.
Hello, everyone. My name is April Freeman, Director of Patient Advocacy and Engagement at Sonolescence. At age 31, I became a widow. My husband died of GBM, and it changed my life forever. And since then, I've been dedicated to doing whatever I can to make sure no one else has to go through what he went through. And I'm so excited to be here with two great people, very highly esteemed, Lisa Ward and Adam Hayden, which will give their introductions here later. But I want to talk about what I'm doing right now. So after he died, I felt like it was my life's mission to give back because it took everything out of me. And I looked for jobs that would give me that opportunity, and I found one, which is what I'm doing right now, and I'm really excited about it. So I work at a company that is currently developing sonodynamic therapy to treat high-grade gliomas. We're really excited about the work that we're doing, and we're looking forward to helping as many people in the community as possible. So I just want to thank you all for coming and listening to us today, and I'm going to kick it off to my colleagues, Miss Lisa Ward.
Hello, everyone. I can't thank you enough for being here. There is so much energy in this room to change the course. I'm here because my son's not here. He passed away 2 years ago. Jace had DIPG and had a valiant 25-month fight because he was able to access some cutting-edge therapies, and many of you in this room helped him evaluate which ones he should try. But the day he was diagnosed, he said, "I'm not afraid to die. I'm afraid not to make an impact before I do." And the last time I saw his eyes open, that fire still burned in his eyes. He wanted to make a difference. He saw gaps that needed to be filled, and he always said, let's make the circle bigger. We can't keep fighting with just those in the fight right now. Let's think of new ideas. Let's bring people to the fight. So that's what we want to do, and thank you for leaning into that idea.
Hello, everyone. My name is Adam Hayden. I was diagnosed with glioblastoma in 2016, if you can believe that. I'm also a son, a husband, a dad, a brother, and a friend. And glioblastoma has given me a unique perspective on mortality and how we empower patients in the world, how we enhance and extend the lives of brain tumor patients. I'm honored to serve the board of National Brain Tumor Society, where we are making that a reality. Thanks to everybody for the invitation. So exciting to serve the panel and to be a part of today's meeting. Thank you.
Awesome. So we've been chatting here quite a bit, and we're just like old friends. We're going to treat it like we're just old friends having a chat. So question for the both of you. I know you're here representing DIPG. You're here representing GBM. I'll start with you, Lisa. What are 3 top things that you wish the community would really know more about, or you would like to bring to the forefront as it relates to DIPG?
Very good. I think if you ask the community what they want a cure. If they can't have a cure, they want stability as long as possible with a treatment that keeps them closest to their family and offers real hope. I think they want a connectedness with the community, and they want to be able to afford treatment. But if I had to say what I believe the 700 families I know with DIPG or have struggled with DIPG want, it is we can figure out the rest. We just need curative treatments. So if that means we need better basic science, we need to translate it to the bench, we need to involve industry and academics, that's what they want. And they want to get rid of any artificial barrier in that progress. Don't talk to us about patient privacy anymore. Don't talk to us about academic versus industry anymore. Don't talk about things that are artificial to us. Let's just find something that heals these kids, because when we heal a kid, we heal an entire family.
Yeah, I think these kind of 3 priorities, National Brain Tumor Society, we do sort of we look at the pillars of our work as defeat and connect and change. And that really resonates with me. And so I think defeating brain tumors once and for all. So this is science-driven, but also understanding one way that we can defeat brain tumors is also by enhancing quality of life. It can be pretty courageous to live with well-being and with quality of life. Connecting the community, I think brain tumors are so isolating, both because rare disease incidence, but it is an attack on your personhood. And so I think connecting the community, both through advocacy, but also through support, is a great way to kind of connect the community. Changing the landscape. So considering alternatives to randomized control trials, considering how we close the health equity gap, these are ways that we can change the landscape of brain tumor care. So I think those three priorities, right? Defeat and connect and to change, those are things that I certainly have rallied around with the community.
Yeah, when you think about it, from what I understand, brain tumors, whether it be pediatric or adult, are one of the most deadly cancers affecting the most population. So why don't we do an all-hands-on-deck moonshot in brain cancer, and specifically in glioblastoma and in DIPG? You know, when I think moonshot, I think of NASA, and I think of the walk on the moon and what that must have felt like in the control center with everybody just coming in, not paying attention to what institution they came from or what their other interest is, but let's do it with urgency. And Jace would always say DIPG won't wait. I think that's true of GBM also. Sure. We don't have the time. But, you know, what I wanted to know when Jace was diagnosed is, what did Neil Armstrong's family think? They're often quoted as having the daughter, Muffy, who died of DIPG. And it caused Neil Armstrong to join NASA. And I spoke with their son, and he's given me permission to repeat this. I said, why aren't you speaking out on DIPG? And he said, what would we say? It destroyed our family. It is the reason my dad joined NASA. It was hard for him to be home anymore without my sister. It is the reason my mom self-medicated and took care of herself in ways that weren't healthy to us as siblings. And they divorced afterwards. It destroyed our family. And here, 62 years later, that is what we see, family after family after family, unless they make a specific choice every day to lean in and be impactful in another way. We have to change this now. And it's going to have to be bolstered by government support. There's just not another way to do it. But it will take all of us deciding that that is the most important thing we can do, is to change it. And we will celebrate together when we come together and change the course.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I was struck by what you said and what you said too. We cannot wait. The reality for me is, from date of diagnosis to date of death was 10 months. And it was a whirlwind, right? And so we have to do more. And kind of going back to the NASA statement, you know, Kennedy, talking about the moonshot, you know, we're doing this not because it's easy, but because it's hard. And we want to continue shooting for the moon because we need more options for patients. The other thing I wanted to ask, also listening to the two of you, it seemed like there's some similarities, right? We're looking for a cure, we're looking for more treatments. So what are your thoughts on leveraging what's already out there to, you know, raise more awareness, education, more funding, whatever's needed?
Absolutely. I mean, for the patient's point of view, you know, we have something in our head or our child's head that threatens our life. We don't care what it's called. It helps to know a little bit more about it, and we can maybe research that. But, you know, we hope you do work together. We hope we can leverage things that are going on maybe in Parkinson's or Huntington's or other diseases that would lend themselves. We need to understand the brain, right? Not just the tumor, but we need to understand what makes that brain work. And we need, in my opinion, to bring others to the field that haven't even been thinking about DIPG, but know this about the brain or that about the brain or the immune system and how it reacts. So let's be all on hands on deck. And you guys that have been working in this so long, you guys be the ones that bring him in and make him excited about it. But how do we make really, really great people that are in hot demand interested in something? Unfortunately, it does take leveraging dollars. And that's where I'm going to insist that the U.S. can do this for their children and young adults and any adult that has brain cancer. When we learn about brain cancer, we learn about the brain, and it will spill out not only into other cancers, but also into other brain disease, correct?
Yeah, absolutely. I really appreciate that when you said young adults, you gestured to me.
Yes, absolutely. Doesn't he look great, by the way?
Absolutely.
This is a warrior. Doesn't he look great?
No, listen, I mean, I'm always a fan of extending a metaphor. And I think when we think about the moonshot, listen, patients are on the moon now. They're walking on the moon. They're courageous. Every day you get up as a patient and live your life, that is courage. Your caregiver that cares for you, my beautiful wife Whitney at home, who has the kids so I can be here. These are courageous patients and care partners who are walking on the moon. And I think the scientific community, we want to bring them home, right? And that's where we want to lock together working groups to make sure we can deliver durable therapies and curative therapies, et cetera. But what are the immediate things we can do now to enhance quality of life, to enhance well-being? How do we think about complex symptom management? How do we think about services like palliative care at the point of diagnosis?
Yeah.
And so that not merely are we extending life, but we make each day that we're living just a little bit better. And that's important to me, and I think it's important to the community.
Absolutely. Quality of life is very important to not only those living with it, but those that love them. You know, we want to see them at their best selves as long as possible. So thank you for sharing that. I want to talk about innovation. So I know, Adam, you've spoken about, GBM, really hasn't been anything new in the last 30 years or so, give or take. I think, Lisa, maybe you've mentioned in DIPG, 60 years or so?
Standard of care.
Yeah, it's been a while. And so how do we, now that we have the best and brightest in the room, we have their ear, we can turn their ear, how do we create more innovation? How do we, whether it's researchers, whether it's industry, a lot of people unfortunately aren't motivated to go into brain cancer for whatever reason. They say, well, we don't really understand the brain. Well, there's not enough to fund it. How do we start working in that area to create more innovation?
You go first.
Sure, of course. I think highlighting a project like the DNA Damage Response Consortium or the DDRC. So this is, what's so cool about this is it is a consortium. It is a collaborative model. So Yale and St. Jude and UCSF, we have all of these just top-notch institutions who are joining together, rallying around a problem. And so I think thinking beyond the PI, thinking beyond the institution, thinking beyond the lab, and instead thinking about, listen, we are all locking arms in solidarity. And so how do we make sure that we incentivize funding models that are built on connecting the community as opposed to lifting up institutions? And I hear more and more that collaborative conversation happening. And then I think, like my advocate peer, Liz Salmi, who's out here, say, hey, Liz. So Liz is big on patient co-creation in research priorities, so that we're not just checking the boxes with patient-centered care and patient involvement in research, but that we're allowing patients to set the research agenda with you. We are the subject matter experts in lived experience.
Absolutely.
And so I think that's another pathway to change.
Yes, absolutely.
I think what you said is exactly right. Like, let's create a central project, whether it's like the UK Grand Challenge, whether it's Critical Path, but let's make sure there's a strategic path, and let's don't stop at just those of us that have been researching, right, DIPG and GBM. Let's look for who's not in the room and bring them up to speed and bring them into the room. And let's make sure new young scientists that are showing lots of promise want to be part of this group, because you guys are fabulous and you're doing it for all the right reasons.
Absolutely. Well, thank you guys so much for joining me today. Thank you all for tuning in. And we're just really looking to make a difference here. So thanks again.
Great job.
Thank you so much for helping us understand our priorities for today's work and as we move forward. It's my pleasure to welcome our second panel. Please join me on stage. We are welcoming Dr. Hanku from ARPA-H, Dr. Gilbert from the National Cancer Institute, and Dr. Koroshetz, Director of the National Institute for Neurological Disorders.
Welcome, everybody. It is indeed a great honor to be part of this meeting and to represent the National Cancer Institute at what should be a fantastic afternoon of discussion and hopefully planning. We all recognize what a what devastating diseases DIPG, or Diffuse Intrinsic Pontine Glioma, and Glioblastoma are. And they also are rare cancers, as our previous panelists have pointed out. So it's really going to take a concerted effort to make advances, and hopefully today some foundational ideas will emerge from our discussion, and we will have a roadmap going forward. So just to introduce myself, I'm a neuro-oncologist. I've been in the field for more than 3 decades. I've said that now for 5 or 6 years, so you do the math. And I have, over the course of my career as a clinician and clinical and translational investigator, treated thousands of patients and their families, and have taken people through this very, very difficult road. And I would think it would be a great achievement for myself and colleagues who are in the same generation of neuro-oncologists if we set the stage for the following generations of investigators and people in the field to really be pointing towards a cure. There are resources out there. As a representative here of the NCI, I did want to remind everybody that the NCI does provide a lot of resource, a lot of support. They support the research efforts going on the Bethesda and Frederick campus, just up the road, 8.5 miles, if anybody's interested. And of course, they also support lots of grants at academic institutions and other places, including the R grants, which are for individuals, the program project grants. Many program project grant holders are here, and the SPORES. And the SPORE grant is the Specialized Program of Research Excellence. So there are brain spores, and there are also Cancer Grand Challenge grants, and I know we have some awardees here. More recently, the Glioblastoma Therapeutics Network grant system was set up. And very importantly, the SPORE and the GTN, the Glioblastoma Therapeutics Network, are designed to take great research forward into clinical trial. These are translational grants. This is the mandate, and I think that's a really important start. Of course, there's the National Clinical Trial Network, the NCTN. This supports the cooperative groups, including groups like NRG and Alliance, and also the Children's Oncology Group. Each of them have very important brain tumor committees, and of course the Pediatric Brain Tumor Consortium also supported. For us, in the neuro-oncology branch, where I serve as chief, we get great support from the Center for Cancer Research, and so we're quite grateful for that. We also have tremendous collaborations with the Pediatric Oncology Branch, also part of the Center for Cancer Research under the leadership of Brigitte Wiedemann, who's also very involved in the Childhood Cancer Data Initiative. I want to also mention the Cancer Moonshot. This is obviously a very key component, and we heard about Moonshot 1 and hopefully Moonshot version 2, and we were very fortunate collaborating with our pediatric oncology colleagues to get support for the Rare Tumor Patient Engagement Network. And this is to study rare pediatric and rare adult CNS cancers. And so our program, NCI Connect, has gotten this support, and we've been able to very successfully engage patients, provide access to state-of-the-art treatment, and also, very importantly, form a collaborative effort. So I certainly want to extend my gratitude to the Cancer Moonshot program. So in my view, how do we move forward? Well, I think it's really important to have a roadmap. And Dr. Bertinoli, the NCI director, put forth something called the National Cancer Plan. And there were many elements to it, but the ones that I think are particularly germane to us in neuro-oncology are developing effective treatments, eliminating inequities, delivering optimal care, engaging every person with the disease, maximizing data utility, and optimizing the workforce. So let me break it down a little bit. Developing effective treatments, no pun intended, but that's a no-brainer. It's challenging. You know, these are very difficult diseases. The standard chemotherapies that are effective for other cancers don't even cross the blood-brain barrier. Many treatments have been attempted. There have been thousands of clinical trials, and as you heard, the standard of care has not changed for one disease for 60 years, for another more than 20 years. And we are dealing with the nervous system, particularly the brain. So we have to be cognizant of the effect of the cancer and its treatment on the brain. And so when we think about clinical trials, not only do we need to have them hypothesis-based and have a lot of correlative biology, but we also need to include patient measures, what we call clinical outcomes assessments, to really gauge the effect of the treatment and the cancer on the patient. And then finally, we need to focus on survivorship, because it is my expectation that the work that we do will result in prolonged survival, and so we have to be prepared to guide those people through the late effects of their tumor and their treatment. Of course, eliminating inequities, delivering optimal care, engaging every person with disease is obvious, right? These are not diseases that know socioeconomic boundaries. And I think it's so important that we have diversity in our clinical trials and that every patient has access to a clinical research study. Maximizing the data utility, optimizing the workforce, that's collaboration, that's information sharing, that's not only amongst investigators, but it's regulatory and granting agencies, and importantly, the patients and patient advocacy groups. And finally, and I think one of the former panelists alluded to this, partnering with experts outside of neuro-oncology, but in related fields will, quote, optimize the workforce, right? There's expertise out there that we need to tap into. This is a very, very big problem. I am excited that we're all together today. I know that the NCI is very much engaged in this space. And I hope that we can come together and create an environment with collaboration, and we can really see some substantive changes. Thank you. I'll pass it to my colleague.
Good afternoon, everybody. I would like to first say thank you to the organizers. It's a pleasure and an honor to be here. Let me start with a quick introduction. My name is Ilana Henku. I am an imaging scientist by training. After graduating with my PhD, I went in industry, and I worked at GE Global Research for 18 years. And I spent a good part of my career actually trying how to better understand and diagnose and follow treatment in cancer. That included brain cancer and breast cancer as well. After my tenure at GE, I moved to NIH 5 years ago. First, I was a scientific review officer at the Center for Scientific Review, and I started a study section which was image-guided interventions and surgery. I then moved to NCI as a program director in the cancer imaging program. And as of 4 weeks ago, I'm at ARPA-H, and I am a program manager there. And no matter how much I would like to believe you came here to listen to me, to hear about what I've done, I'm pretty sure that you would much rather hear about what ARPA-H is doing. So I will spend most of my time giving you a quick update of where we are. So we're here and we're open for business. Our director was sworn in October, and we have $2.5 billion ready to go out for research. We have 5 program managers on board as of this week. And the first program was actually just announced last week. It is meant to find a way for our knees to cure themselves. So the first program will be in osteoarthritis. However, we are fully aware of the burden that cancer puts on the patients, their families, and on the healthcare system. So I can promise you there will be programs in cancer sooner rather than later. However, because they were not made public, I have to refrain from commenting further. So each of us will put 1 to 2 programs a year out, and these are focused areas of interest. However, we realize that we cannot cover the entire healthcare space with a few programs a year, no matter how many hundreds of hours we all work in each month. So that's why we actually came up with a different solution. So we have what's called a broad agency announcement. And that's a call for proposal that has been open since March 15th. And for this particular call, anybody can apply with any topic that's related to healthcare. It's a very easy application process. For the initial application, we only require 3 pages. And in those pages, you are supposed to explain what's the unmet need, what is the technical approach, and it can be as crazy as you want it to be, as long as it remains science and not science fiction. The other good thing is that money is not an issue. So if you have this crazy, bold idea and you need 2 industrial partners and you need 3 universities together, that is fine by us. And I can tell you we have received proposals for projects that were in the $100 to $200 million. So again, there is no limitation on how much you ask for, and no limitation whether you come from industry, small business, large business. The only thing that matters is the idea. So what you have to come to us with is a broad, bold idea. We do not want to necessarily tackle one problem at a time. We would like to develop platforms and capabilities that will apply broadly across diseases. But we also understand that in certain cases, you will need to get focused, and we're fully willing to support you. Again, it is important that we are not looking for incremental steps. We're truly looking, let's put it, not for the better horse, we're looking for the Ford Model A. So no matter how crazy of an idea, if there is any inkling in the literature that that idea could work, come to us. We'll review those proposals. We are relatively aggressive in screening them out. And those ideas that seem plausible, we will ask for full proposals. And they, again, all of them are reviewed internally, and we are moving very quickly. Again, so the reason we try to make it very easy, you don't want to write a 30-page proposal and then learn that it wasn't selected, but 3 pages, you can go and knock it off this weekend. And I want to let you know that we have received in excess of 100, and I have seen one single one in the GBM and DIPG space, okay? So get your pens out. We're open. There is no deadline. You know, we do not work. It's essentially continuous submission, and we really are looking for those visionary, aspirational ideas, okay? There is no reason not to come to us. And with that, I will finish here with the shameless advertising, and I will pass the mic to my colleague.
Sorry, how much money did you say was there?
Lots.
You heard it first. Okay, great. Hi, I'm Walter Koroshetz. I'm the director of the Neurologic Institute at NIH, and I'm here kind of looking at glioma from more of the neurobiology perspective, and I have some opinions, which, you know, people who know me know that I express my opinions pretty boldly. I would say that what we really need now is a completely bold new approach. What we've tried, and I've been involved in brain tumors, people who worked in brain tumors for 30, 40 years, and just not working. And so we need to really start over again, think it through. And I think as was mentioned, we need to bring in people who are thinking differently, because what you see in terms of progress in science occurs at the intersection between different areas of science. And that's especially true when you have an area of science that hits a roadblock, and that's kind of where we are. And then glioma is not like other tumors. So in other tumors, most of the time, the problem is you want to stop the spread throughout the body. Glioma, that's not your problem. Your problem is it's intercalating within the brain substance. So it becomes part of the brain. And we have new evidence from some of the people in this room about how it actually connects with the nerve cells, with the glial cells, and how the vascular system in the brain interacts with the tumors. So it is really a very different situation. It's not the kind of thing that you can send a bomb in and blow up the tumor. it's basically guerrilla warfare. You got to fight the battle, cell to cell, part of the brain to part of the brain, and the only way to do that is to co-opt what we know about how the brain works to develop these kind of much more precise targets. And that environment, where this fighting is going to occur, is going to be this, what we call the neural environment between the tumor, the neural cells, the vascular cells, and the immune system. So the immune system, there's cells that come from the bone marrow and float around in the blood and go into the brain. But the brain also has immune cells that were born there and live there, and they are the resident immune systems. And certainly a lot of work has been done, but more needs to be done to co-opt that system, because that's been so effective in some of the other cancers, turning the immune system, because those cells can move through those same intercalated spaces where the tumor cells are going. Now, the other area is, as was mentioned before, because this is not in one place, it's not a local problem. You can take the tumor out, but it's not gone. It's going to come back. It's hiding somewhere. So the treatment has to go through most, if not all, parts of the brain. And that means you need access. And as was mentioned before, the blood-brain barrier is sitting there preventing access of a lot of drugs to get across. Now, interestingly, that's not just a problem for brain tumors, that's a problem for everybody. I've been accused of not solving that problem by engineers all over the country, because it's an engineering problem. But there are people who have kind of engineering solutions now. So there are companies that have ways in which you can hook a molecule up to a shuttle system that crosses from the blood into the brain. There's also, in the Brain Initiative, which I'll mention in a second, people who have screened viruses, millions and millions of different types of viruses, to find the one that goes into the brain blood vessels. And it can either go across the brain blood vessels, or it can set up in the blood vessel wall itself and just start secreting agents and chemicals into the brain, almost like a bioreactor in your brain. So these are kind of a little bit sci-fi, but that's kind of what we need, I think, to try and get to what we want to get to with gliomas. And then we need, if you have to affect and get your treatment into the entire brain, you have to have your treatment to have target engagement just where you want it and not where you don't want it. And that's a big problem with most of the drugs we have now, is that they go into the brain. To get to the dose you want, it's going to affect a whole bunch of other cells, and you can't get to that dose that you want. But there are ways, and particularly in the Brain Initiative now, where people are developing ways to get a genomic change into just the cell type you want. Now, they're doing that because they want to understand how the brain works. They want to turn on this type of cell or turn off that type of cell and see what happens to behavior. But also people are thinking of using that, say, to treat Parkinson's disease, to get therapies into just the nerve cells that are involved in Parkinson's. We should maybe thinking about that for brain tumors, using these, what I call highly precise target bombs to kind of just get to the cells that you want to get to, using these other technologies. And these have to be not just cell type specific, but the other problem with glioma is the cells are changing all the time. So when you think you know what they're doing, a month later they get some treatment, a month later they're doing something completely different. So we have to kind of get a handle on that, maybe try and think about how to map that out and kind of predict where they're going to go next and hit them, where the puck is going, not where the puck is right now. So I think there's lots of things that the neuroscientists can now offer to this field. I can't guarantee anything, because I can tell you, when I had my first brain tumor patient 35 years ago, we thought, well, there'd be a treatment. There was this oncolytic virus that was being used at NIH, but here we are, decades later, we haven't gotten anywhere. We get little spurts of hope, and then we don't really get it. So we need a really new, bold approach. We need to bring in people from other fields, really engage them. I think this is a compelling problem that if we can offer a path for people to come in, they would come in because of the stories that we heard earlier. And the community, as Adam said, is full of courage, and the people who treat patients are full of courage and persistence So we have the nucleus, but we need to kind of really reach out and get a greater, broader expertise to bring to bear. So at NINDS, that's, I really am very interested in working with NCI to kind of move these brain tumor projects forward in kind of a new, kind of bold way. And this is a great meeting to start it off, I think. So thank you.
Great. Thank you both. So I think we heard some of the challenges, and certainly from our colleague from ARPA-H, we heard about opportunity. And for those who may not have heard, she was talking about 2.5 billion with a B in resource. So I know we only have a few more minutes, but I would ask, I know ARPA-H is in its early stages, but would you give us a little bit of advice as to how a collaboration would be best suited for support from that environment?
Collaboration in what sense with?
So we band together experts and industry and a variety, and so the intellectual capacity in this room is extraordinary. These are the thought leaders in the field, and I think we're hoping that at the end of today there would be energy and a desire to form groups to tackle specific problems, and how would that fit into the ARPA-H sort of philosophy?
So we are open for collaborations across the board with government agencies. We're open to collaborations with industry, with the pharma companies. It can be done in a more formal fashion. Again, bear in mind that the projects that we intend to support are not limited by funds, are not limited by participants. We ourselves only have offices. There is no lab space, so we cannot make or manufacture drugs. However, we do see ourselves as a place to buy down risk. A pharma company may not invest in a rare disease simply because the market isn't there. But if we manage to get a project through and de-risk a certain development and get it hopefully through phase 1-2 clinical trials, then by that time, hopefully it will become much more attractive for pharma companies to step in. And we're more than happy to sit down at the table and figure out how to move forward best.
Okay.
Liana, my understanding, correct me if I'm wrong, is that there's two ways that projects could get going. And one way is to reply to the broad agency announcement that's out. But the other way is for somebody who's interested in brain tumors to apply to be a program officer at ARPA-H, and maybe explain that second pathway, which is quite different from, say, how NIH works.
It is very different in that we don't hire program managers for their CVs, although, of course, those help. We hire them for their vision. And frankly, my own interview process took probably 100 hours of preparation. You have to come in with your vision and explain exactly why that is a problem. What are the numbers? What are the current proposed approaches? What do you envision and being a particular solution for that? What are the technologies out there? What are the market? What's the market? What are, why exactly you think that can be done and how it can be done? So that's how we get in. And I have to assure you there's a lot of there are surgeons applying, and we see a high number of very qualified candidates. So please, if you're interested, you have a vision, it's the place to be. I have to work, you're all, clinicians and surgeons, I know you work long hours. You may work even longer hours at ARPA because moving $2.5 billion is not trivial in a meaningful way, right? But I can assure you it's a very, very exciting environment, and it's a place where you can make a difference.
Great.
So if you have a vision, come to us.
Okay, thank you. I want to thank my fellow panelists. That's our time. Thank you all for the opportunity to be here and to do our presentations.
Thank you so much. It is now my pleasure to welcome my boss and the Deputy Assistant to the President for the Cancer Moonshot, Dr. Danielle Carnival.
Thank you, Annabella. Thank you to all of the panelists and to Arthi for the opening remarks. I think we heard very clearly priorities, progress, and opportunities that lay ahead of us. When the President and First Lady reignited the Cancer Moonshot, they called for a whole-of-government response, which we are very actively pursuing, and you saw some representation of that today. But they also called for a whole-of-society response, and that's what we're hoping to really capitalize on for the rest of this meeting and for the continued work of people watching at home or at work. The President and First Lady really put out a call to action and a priority, not just on cancer, but on solving these really challenging issues within cancer. It's deeply personal for them. That is that is not a secret. It's deeply personal for me. I lost a parent to glioblastoma, and I'm a neuroscientist by training. This is my field, and these are my people. But it's a priority for this administration because it's deeply personal to nearly every American. And so I want to keep that frame in how we think about going forward and use the refrain from the earlier panel of "we cannot wait." We need to determine opportunities, new actions, new collaborations with the thinking of smart, measurable, achievable, relevant, time-bound. Meaningful progress against DIPG and GBM with the urgency and fire that Lisa described lived so prominently and clearly in Jace, and so many other patients and families. Robust pipeline of promising treatments. Think about drugs being more available to patients, effective trial networks and effective trial designs, sharing of knowledge, driving progress forward, because we cannot wait. We're gonna break out here and get to work on really realizing that vision that's going to help us break through. But we want everyone who's watching to do that on their own as well. Go to whitehouse.gov/Cancer Moonshot, share your ideas and your actions. I loved how Adam put it that so many of the people facing this disease and those trying to help them solve it are already on the moon. So in comparison to the original moonshot, this is not exploration, this is not the development of new technologies, this is a rescue mission to bring them back, to rejoin us. So let's get to work. Thank you all, thanks for being here.